How does paraxanthine help to increase stress capacity specifically? The bigger the bathtub, the more you can smartly add in the water. Yeah. But how does paraxanthine help with capacity of stress?
Well, that's a great question. One is going to be the idea of decreasing oxidative stress. Again, if we look at the ways the brain ages, as we age, there's going to be more oxidative stress. There's going to be less blood flow to the brain, nitric oxide. There's going to be decreased neurotransmitters. We look at things like Parkinson's, and that's a neurodegenerative condition where there's less dopamine. Alzheimer's is associated with beta amyloid plaque, as well as blood glucose levels. Alzheimer's can be called type 3 diabetes. That's a whole discussion we can get into. Ooh. If we look at all the ways that the brain ages, this is reversing them. So it's like making the brain younger while it's giving us more energy. We're seeing in our study yet to come out, it should be out in the next few months, but we pulled some early data with e-gamers. And what we see is with caffeine, there's habitualization and adaptation, where habitualization is you need to physiologically stay tied to it. You need it. And you see that, right? At Starbucks or whatever. Sure. People are just zombies. Like
$7 for a coffee, no problem.
Yeah, the whole, like we've talked about this, like the little meter on the coffee cup. It's like, I don't know, the whole, like, I'm brain dead till I get my coffee. Like it's a ha thing, but it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Adaptation is a response where it takes more and more and more and more to get the same effect.
Just like any addiction.
Right. What we see with paraxanthine is you don't have habitualization, you don't have adaptation, and you're getting all these benefits of not only the central nervous system stimulant, you're getting the adenosine inhibition that's associated with wakefulness, but then you're getting all these things that are making the brain healthier. And in this study, this e-gaming study, we saw caffeine for the gamers was having like declining effects with continued use, right? Because there's adaptation, one, but two, it's a come at a cost ingredient. Whereas the paraxanthine group, we're seeing improvements with continued use over time. It's actually the reverse. It's not only not a come at a cost ingredient, it's improving you over time with continued use and giving you more energy. This is like the idea of saying, there's people around you that are draining you of energy. There's energy vampires, right? And then saying, well, there's people that can give you energy. That's cool. That's cool. That's one level. That's a whole lot better than energy vampires like caffeine. Caffeine's an energy vampire. Come at a cost. And then maybe there's things like, some adaptogen or whatever that's not the energy vampire that's, giving you some benefits. But then this paraxanthine, this is like that great relationship where you and I, this is actually the relationship I think about all the time. When I'm around you, I give a lot and I get back so much. The energy that I'm giving out comes back to me manyfold, where I just feel like I have more and more and more. And it's an endless supply of energy. And if you have that abundance mindset, then that's what like paraxanthine is. That's the shift. That's the evolution or the revolution that's happening. This is the caffeine 2.0, is that it's going to change the way society thinks, feels, and acts. It's going to be the replacement for caffeine, where it's been this abusive relationship for millennia. 93% of America takes caffeine every day. We talked about this, and 90% of those that take caffeine want to take less. People know it's bad for them. Mm-hmm. People know it. It's like saying alcohol probably too. Like it's probably like similar numbers. People use it and then they're like, well, I want to use less. What's the real benefit? Maybe if you're taking a small amount here and there, it's actually potentially helpful. Probably the same with caffeine. But the way that we're using alcohol and caffeine, it's not going to be helpful. It's going to be counterproductive. And not just counterproductive physiologically, but all those other sides of that pentagon are going to take that toll.
Yeah, the Band-Aid's real, and the Band-Aid keeps the broken machine running, essentially. Like, feel into this. If you were to actually have energy and not crash and not get home and be a jerk to your wife, or be so exhausted from over-caffeination that you can't be present for your kids, what comes from that space? What's possible from that space? It's such an overlooked thing, stimulation and then deadening down by alcohol, this kind of manic cycle, almost like bipolar in a way, right? We elevate, then we crash. We elevate, then we crash. What's possible from an energetic standpoint when we're not riding a roller coaster anymore? Like, that's the most exciting, because then you're actually afforded, and this goes back to my initial question, a bigger bathtub. You're not burning out at the end of the day, which means you need more of a downer, which is alcohol, which, by the way, makes your sleep terrible, and then the cycle continues. What's possible from that place? I think that's really the conversation.
Yeah, your stress bucket is much larger, to your point. You call it bathtub, or your allostatic capacity. Like, it's all the same idea. The allostatic load you're able to take is greater. And so that is the idea. And when you have, in my book, I talk about this a lot, that there's Stoicism is the same idea of physiologic resilience and mental resilience are tied into each other deeply. Like, the greater I get at my ability to exercise in the gym, to not only do different heavy lifts, but also do HIIT training, to also do flexibility training and mobility training, and be able to balance and, use proprioception and all these different things. My mental resilience is going to be dramatically higher. And this has been shown in many studies. Same on the other end. The more stoic, cognitively flexible I am, the more physiologically flexible I can be. It's the same. And really, this could be applied again to your pentagon, the spiritual resilience, the financial resilience. It's going to, as you alleviate these woes, as you take these wounds away, obviously there's going to be more energy that's divertible to another place, right? It's going to anywhere that if you take away the energy block or energy vampire on one of those 5 pillars, now energy is going to flow more freely across all your forms.
It almost feels like caffeine. I wonder how you feel about this. Caffeine is like a tsunami. So it comes in, it gives a bunch of energy, but then when it leaves, there's a wake of destruction. At least that's what it was for me.
For sure.
I was using caffeine in espresso. I started when I was a trainer. So I would have a 5 a.m. client, and I would slam probably 300 milligrams of caffeine just to get going in the morning. And I did that for 5, 6, 7 years. And then I started to get ringing in my ears, tinnitus. And I was like, man, I got to look at this, that something's wrong here. Something's off. Now, paraxanthine didn't exist at that time. If it did, I probably would have heard about it. I probably would have been into it. But for people that have never heard about paraxanthine, this is, yes, it's a scientific breakthrough, but there's a really strong connection as to what came up for you spiritually in the ceremony. This is real. This is palpable. This is not a podcast where I'm just trying to sell you something. This is real, sustainable change that you can use as a fulcrum. And then from there, you can start tweaking and changing other parts of yourself. Start with what you have wherever you are. And if you start with the overstimulation and then the deadening down from alcohol, you're not going to be able to grow or change much. But if you just tweak something, all I'm saying is if we could just change something in the way that we approach life from an energy standpoint, that's how revolutions happen. That's how the world changes. We start loving ourselves. We start treating others with more care just by making one choice in a day. Literally, it's so simple, right? It's so simple, yet
if I can get people to switch from alcohol to this, if I can get people to switch from caffeine to paraxanthine, or like the opioids to kratom, right? Or like these things become massive change agents in your life. And again, going back to that idea of like, once you have some healing here, it's going to allow for the whole physiology to change.
No doubt. No doubt.
Everything. Like, again, like you're saying, like the way I'm talking to my wife or to my child, the way that I have energy to throw the ball with my dog, the way that when someone connects with me at work, I'm not like, oh my God, like you're such a burden. Like I'm so like, wow. This is why I've talked about paraxanthine as the flow versus the frazzle. Caffeine is come at a cost. It's frazzle. You're overwhelmed. Your physiology is exhausted. It's taken a toll. Paraxanthine is helping you get into the flow where it's about parasympathetic and sympathetic. That's the yin and yang. That's where I can have that connection, that stimulation, along with relaxation. This is the idea of, instead of clawing and fucking scraping to get it and grinding, what if I can just call it in? And these people that I mentioned before, the Michael Jackson, the Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, they know what flow state was. Like, that's when it's like, just, you can do no wrong. Everything's just going your way. I read about this one conductor that called it like the phantom hand, like when he was conducting symphonies. Like he didn't even know what his hand was doing because it's just in flow. You're not working at it. You're not trying hard. You're not grinding. You're in flow. It's just coming in. You're channeling. You're using the gifts that God gave you. You're in your genius.
Whoa. So you love that episode? You'll love the one on the screen. Click it and enjoy.